Someone you love is carrying something they have never told you about. Not a secret in the way humans keep secrets. A spiritual assignment, loaded into their life before they ever walked into yours, aimed at the specific breakthrough God prepared for your life before either of you were born. And every time your breakthrough has gotten close enough to touch, this assignment has executed itself. Not dramatically, just close enough to you, at precisely the right moment, and then the breakthrough died. Again, you have watched breakthrough arrive in your life more times than you can count. The momentum builds. The opportunity presents itself. The promise of God that you have been carrying for years finally feels like it is about to become permanent. And then it dies. Not slowly, suddenly. Like something reached in and pulled the life out of it right at the moment it was closest to surviving. And you have prayed. You have fasted. You have done everything a faithful believer does when a breakthrough keeps dying before it can become permanent. But nobody told you to look at who was standing next to it every single time it died. Today, the Holy Spirit does. 4 warnings the Holy Spirit gives when someone you love is carrying a death assignment against your breakthrough. And before the first one begins, understand this. What you are about to receive is not an invitation to view love as a threat. It is the specific discernment that every believer was promised when they asked God to show them what has been operating against their life. Stay through all 4. Because the other side of this is not the death of the relationship. It is the end of the death of your breakthrough. Warning. Number 1. Your breakthrough dies every time it gets close to permanent in their presence. Think about the last 5 times your breakthrough was closest to becoming permanent. Not the early stages, the final stages. The moment where everything had aligned, where the deal was essentially done, where the relationship had reached the point of no return, where the financial breakthrough had built to the level where it was about to compound into something that could not be reversed. Now think about where this person was in each of those moments. Not absent, present, close enough to be involved in the details, close enough to know the specific stage the breakthrough had reached, close enough that their presence in those moments felt completely natural. Because love normalizes proximity, and proximity normalizes access. And in every single one of those moments, the breakthrough died. Not from lack of faith, not from wrong timing, not from a general spiritual attack that arrived from a distant and unidentifiable source. From something that operated in the specific window of this person's proximity to the breakthrough at its most critical and most vulnerable stage. Map it honestly. Because the pattern you find when you lay this person's presence against the timeline of your breakthrough deaths is not a coincidence. It is a map. And the map has this person's fingerprints on every single location where a breakthrough stopped breathing. In 2 Samuel 13, Amnon's breakthrough, his health, his future, died in the presence of Jonadab. Not because Jonadab attacked him openly, because Jonadab carried counsel that functioned as a death sentence for everything Amnon's life was supposed to produce. He presented himself as a friend. He arrived with a plan. And the breakthrough that Amnon's life was supposed to carry died in the exact season Jonadab's influence was most active. The most dangerous assignments never announce themselves as assignments. They announce themselves as love. Think about who has been announcing themselves as love in every season your breakthrough was closest to surviving. Because the presence that keeps showing up at the deathbed of your breakthrough is not a coincidence. It is the assignment reporting for duty. And what makes this warning even more urgent is that this person does not need to do anything specific to execute the assignment. They do not need to take a single visible action, because the second warning reveals something far more alarming, that what they carry is enough, that their atmosphere alone has been sufficient to kill what your faith built. Warning number 2. The atmosphere they carry cannot sustain what breakthrough requires to live. There are things that cannot survive in certain climates. A tropical plant cannot survive in a frozen environment, not because something attacked it, because the climate itself is incompatible with what the plant requires to live. The cold does not need to do anything specific. It simply needs to be present, and presence is enough. This person carries a spiritual climate. Every person does. But this person's climate, the specific spiritual atmosphere of unbelief, of a deep, unresolved relationship with the death of their own dreams, is incompatible with what breakthrough requires to survive. It is not that they attack your breakthrough directly. It is that their atmosphere cannot sustain it. Every seed of momentum that enters their climate wilts. Every declaration that was alive in your spirit before the conversation begins arrives back to you after the conversation's slightly less alive. Every vision that carried fire when God deposited it loses temperature in their presence with a consistency that defies the natural explanation that they simply said something discouraging. They do not always say something discouraging. Sometimes they say nothing at all. But the climate they carry says everything that needs to be said. To every seed of breakthrough in your life that requires a specific spiritual temperature to survive the journey from promise to permanent. In Numbers 13, the 10 spies did not destroy the promise. The land was still there. The promise was still real. The breakthrough was still prepared and waiting. But the atmosphere they carried back from Canaan, the spirit of smallness, the report that made the promise feel unreachable, killed the momentum of an entire generation without a single act of open warfare. They carried a climate. The climate did the work. Think about the specific temperature of your spirit before a significant conversation with this person and after it. Think about whether the momentum your breakthrough was carrying before the interaction survived the interaction intact. Think about whether what was alive in your spirit when you arrived was still alive when you left. Because a breakthrough that cannot survive the climate of someone's presence cannot survive the seasons that climate creates in your life. But it is not just the climate of their presence that has been operating against your breakthrough. There is a third dimension to this death assignment, one that targets not the breakthrough itself, but the specific relationships God assigned to carry it to you. And once you see what has been happening to those relationships in the presence of this person, the pattern becomes impossible to deny. Warning number 3. The relationships carrying your breakthrough die around them. Think about the last 3 significant relationships that arrived in your life carrying something your breakthrough needed. The mentor, whose wisdom was exactly what your next level required. But the relationship died before the wisdom could be fully transferred. The business partner whose specific gifting was the precise complement to yours. But something fractured the partnership before it could produce what it was assigned to produce. The divine connection whose presence in your life felt like God's direct answer to the specific prayer you had been praying about your breakthrough, but who disappeared from your life with a suddenness that still does not make complete sense. Now think about what happened in each of those relationships around the time this person was most involved in your life. Because the death assignment is not just against your breakthrough directly. It is against the relationships that were assigned to carry it to you. A breakthrough of significance rarely arrives in isolation. It arrives through people, through the specific divine connections God releases into a season, carrying resource that function as the delivery mechanism for what God prepared. And an assignment that cannot stop the breakthrough directly will target the delivery mechanism instead. In Acts 13, Paul and Barnabas encountered Elymas the sorcerer at the exact moment a significant divine connection, Sergius Paulus, was about to receive the breakthrough of the gospel. And Elymas did not attack Paul. He did not attack the message. He positioned himself between the messenger and the receiver and sought to turn the proconsul away from the faith. He targeted the relationship that was carrying the breakthrough. Paul discerned it immediately. He addressed it with full spiritual authority. And the breakthrough arrived because the assignment against the relationship was identified and confronted before it could complete its work. Think about the relationships you lost in seasons where your breakthrough was closest. Think about who was positioned between you and those relationships when they died, because the death assignment does not just kill breakthrough directly. It kills the people God sent to carry it to you. And the fourth warning reveals the most alarming truth of all, because it answers the question that every previous warning has been building toward. Not just how this person has been executing the death assignment, but why they were in your life in the first place. If what you are hearing is describing your breakthrough right now, type "My breakthrough is alive" in the comments. Not as a wish, as a declaration. Because the moment you declare your breakthrough is alive, the death assignment loses the agreement it needs from your own spirit to keep executing. I built all of it into a free guide in the description. Use it before you re-enter the space this video just named. The fourth warning is the one that changes everything. Stay. Warning number 4. They were sent into your life in the exact season your breakthrough was closest. Think about when this person entered your life. Not generally, specifically. What season were you in when the relationship began? What was God building in your life at that exact moment? What breakthrough was closest to arriving? What door was God preparing to open? What promise was closest to its fulfillment? Because the timing of this person's arrival in your life was not accidental. It was assigned. They did not develop a death assignment against your breakthrough over the course of the relationship. They arrived with it, preloaded, positioned into your life in the specific season where the assignment would be most effective, and where your love for this person would be deep enough by the time you notice the pattern to make the confrontation feel like a cost too high to pay. That was the strategy. Get close enough to be loved. Get loved enough to be trusted. Get trusted enough to have access. Get access deep enough to be present at the critical moments. And be present at the critical moments consistently enough to ensure that the breakthrough God prepared never survives long enough to become the permanent change it was supposed to produce. In 1 Kings 11, Solomon was in the most significant season of his reign. The temple was built. The kingdom was at its peak. The breakthrough of everything God promised David was as permanent as it had ever been. And it was precisely in that season, not before the breakthrough, not after, that the wives who carried foreign spiritual assignments entered the innermost circle of his life. They did not arrive randomly. They arrived in the season of greatest advancement, because an assignment designed to kill breakthrough is most effective when it arrives closest to the moment of permanence. Think about the season this person arrived in. Think about what was closest to becoming permanent when they walked through the door. Think about what has never fully recovered since. Here is the line that will stay with you long after this video ends. They did not fall in love with you and then develop an assignment. They were assigned to you, and love was the access strategy, not their love for you specifically. The assignment's use of love as the most effective and most invisible vehicle for gaining the access a death assignment requires to execute itself at the level it was designed to operate at. You were not foolish for loving them. You were targeted because of what you were carrying, and what you are carrying is still alive. 4 execution points, 1 assignment, 1 target, the permanent breakthrough God prepared for your life. And now you know what has been killing it. And you know that what carries the assignment cannot carry it forever against a believer who finally knows what they are dealing with. Here's what you do when you notice any of these warnings. Lay the timeline down. Write out the last 5 moments your breakthrough was closest to permanent, and write this person's name beside every one. What you see on that paper is not a coincidence, and it is not your imagination. It is evidence. And evidence brought before God in prayer becomes the foundation of a legal reversal that the assignment has no answer for. Pay attention to the temperature of your spirit before and after every significant interaction with this person from this moment forward. What arrives alive and leaves diminished has identified the climate. And a climate you can measure is a climate you can protect yourself from, not by removing love, but by removing the specific access points that allow the climate to reach your most critical moments of advancement. Bring your breakthrough specifically before God in authoritative prayer tonight, not asking for it, declaring its life, declaring that every death assignment released against it is hereby overruled, declaring that what God prepared as permanent cannot be made temporary by any assignment operating in the natural realm. Because a breakthrough declared alive before God by a believer who understands their authority is a breakthrough the death assignment has no legal right to touch. I built all of it into a free guide in the description. 5 prayer strategies for breaking death assignments against your breakthrough. Built specifically for the believer who has been watching breakthrough arrive and die with a consistency that only makes sense when you understand that what has been killing it was never random. Free. In the description. Use it before you re-enter the space this video just named, because a death assignment that has been identified is a death assignment that will immediately attempt to discredit what you just heard before you have time to act on it. Act first. If this video gave you what you needed, type "My breakthrough is alive" in the comments. Find the person beneath you who typed the same thing and leave them 1 sentence. Just the kind of words that remind another person that the breakthrough they watched die was never meant to stay dead. Your breakthrough did not fail. It was killed. And the God who showed you who was carrying the weapon has already prepared the resurrection. Subscribe, because what God is about to release into your life in this next season is too significant and too permanent to enter without eyes that are fully open and a spirit that knows exactly what it is dealing with. Your breakthrough is not behind you. It is waiting for the death assignment against it to meet its own end. And that end starts today.